Hello there guys, it's Michael from Melbourne Guitar Academy here, and in this video I'm going to show you a bulletproof method for learning and memorizing the fretboard. This is such a great method. It actually comprises of about 3 separate exercises, and you can use this to memorize the whole fretboard in a maximum of 6 weeks. That's right, if you consistently apply the ideas you learn in this video, you will absolutely master the fretboard and know the location of every single note inside out, back to front, sharps and flats. So let's get stuck into it. Now, before I give you the 3 exercises that we're going to go over, we actually need to learn a couple of rules to help us memorize the fretboard. And fortunately, there are just 3 of them. If you apply this knowledge and learn and understand what we're about to talk about here, it will make learning the exercises even easier. So before we learn these 3 exercises, I'm actually going to give you 3 rules behind fretboard memorization. If you understand how the fretboard works and the music theory behind it, guitar will start making sense to you, and you'll have a very, very easy time of learning the layout of the guitar and how everything works. So let's learn these 3 rules. The first rule we need to memorize is the musical alphabet. Now, the musical alphabet is comprised of 7 notes: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. After G, we go back to A, and we just progress sequentially through the alphabet. If we start on string 1, which is the E string, we start on the E note and progress sequentially to F, then G, and then back to A, for example. If we start on the 2nd string, which is tuned to B, we're going to start the alphabet on the B note and progress sequentially: B, C, D, E. So the musical alphabet is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. After G, we go back to A. If you can get that part down, that's all you need to put the next steps in place. Rule number 2 is that E and F and B and C are buddy notes. And what I mean by buddy notes is they are immediately next to each other. Now, you might know this as being a semitone apart or a half step apart. It doesn't matter what name you call it, as long as you understand the principle. So the rule number 2 that we're going to learn is E and F being buddy notes, B and C being buddy notes are immediately next to each other. Whenever you have an E, F is 1 fret away. Whenever you have a B, C is 1 fret away. Every other note has a 1 fret gap, and that's the important thing to know. So if I'm going through my alphabet, E is open, F is immediately next to it. I skip to G at fret 3 because there's a gap. I skip to A at fret 5 because there's a gap. I skip to B at fret 7 because there's a gap. B should set off the alarm bells for buddy note. C is right next to it. So that is rule number 2, basically memorizing that E and F are buddy notes and B and C are buddy notes, and basically going 1 step higher every time you come across one of those notes. Rule number 3 is that the same note repeats every 12 frets on a guitar. So if you started on the open string E, 0 plus 12 is also going to be an E. If F is fret number 1, 1 plus 12 is 13. Fret number 13 should also be an F. So once we get past fret number 12, we keep on progressing sequentially through the alphabet. We just continue on using the tone and semitone patterns once again. So once you have an understanding of those 3 rules, you've got everything you need to learn and memorize the fretboard. And this is going to lead into our first exercise, and that is just horizontally going across the strings while saying the notes out loud. Let's do string number 1 together. So basically, I'm just going to apply those 3 rules as I go along string number 1. The open string, E is 0, F is fret number 1, skip to G at fret number 3, A at fret number 5, B at fret number 7, C at fret number 8, D at fret number 10, and E at fret number 12. All of those rules have occurred there, and I'll talk you through it one more time. So I start on the open string, E is 0, F is going to be the buddy note, that's rule number 2, immediately after at fret number 1. We're going to skip as we sequentially go through the alphabet from F to G. I'm going to skip to fret 3, then I'm going to skip to the A note at fret number 5, and that's as per rule number 1, going back to the start of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, back to A. I'm going to skip to B at fret number 7. That should send off the alarm bells for the buddy note, C at fret number 8. Then I'm going to do D at fret number 10, and I'm going to skip to E at fret number 12. Now, I recommend you just stop at the 12th fret. If you really want to, push yourself and go forward, you can go to F at fret number 13, G at fret number 15, and keep on going. But it's much easier, in my opinion, to learn from 0 to 12 and then just duplicate it an octave higher in the upper octave there. But guys, that's all you need to do to memorize the fretboard 1 string at a time. So my recommendation is to do that 3 times. Now say this out loud. If you say it out loud, it's going to reinforce that information in your brain. How your brain works, the more different ways you reinforce it, whether that's drawing it, saying it out loud, recalling it from memory, filling in blank diagrams with the notes, all the additional things beyond just simply playing up and down are all going to contribute to you retaining this long term. Now for the basic exercise, just go along string number 1, do it forwards 3 times. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. When that starts to get easy, you want to do it backwards. And if you've never said the alphabet backwards, just saying the letters in the reverse order is going to be hard, let alone playing guitar at the same time. But you've got E, then you've got D, then you've got C, then you've got B, then you've got A, then you've got G, then you've got F, and then you've got E. Now you can do that on string 1, 3 times forwards, 3 times backwards. And if that's all you did for the week, just 5 minutes of doing that, you will memorize string number 1 very, very easily. In week number 2, then you bring in string number 2, week number 3, bring in string number 3, and so on and so forth. And after 6 weeks, you will have memorized the entire fretboard 1 string at a time. So even if you don't have that much time to practice, even if you're just beginning and you're wondering how do I go about this, this is a way that you can memorize the entire fretboard with as little as 5 to 10 minutes of practice a day over a 6-week period. Now, for those of you who want to learn the fretboard really, really fast, then basically just do the exercise, but do all 6 strings every day from day number 1, and you will very, very quickly learn and consolidate that information. If you're a total beginner, yeah, it might be a bit challenging. If you don't know about the musical alphabet and the music theory, yeah, maybe there's a bit more information to learn. But if you are an intermediate player or someone who has been playing for a while and you've got the physical aspects of guitar playing down and just need to understand the fretboard and the theory, then you'll have the capacity to go and learn all that from one go. And it's essentially the same information, just repeated in different orders across different strings. So it's not too complex. So to summarize strategy number 1 for memorizing the fretboard, all you are going to do is pick out a string, play forwards 3 times while saying the notes aloud, while keeping in mind those 3 rules about memorizing the fretboard. Then you do it backwards 3 times, and then you go to the next string. You can do that 1 string a week for 6 weeks. You can do every string from day 1, and you will memorize the fretboard very, very quickly. Now, some stretch goals, some additional levels to add on to that is to try a zigzag pattern. So at some point in time, you're going to know this off by heart, and you need to challenge yourself further. That's where you introduce the zigzag pattern, or essentially ascending thirds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go E, I'm going to skip over F to G, back to F, skip to A, G, then B, and then A, and then C, and then B, and then D, and then C, and then E, maybe even back down to D, up to F, and I'll finish on the E. So what I'm training myself to do there is to not be reliant on starting at a fixed point, the E note, and going all the way up to fret number 12, one at a time sequentially. It's like having a start point and a finish point. What you need to do is be able to know where the frets are across the entire fretboard and find the notes instantly from any starting point. And doing this zigzag pattern is going to break you out of the thinking of here's my fixed starting point and I have to count up from there. You'll just be able to find the notes. So that's a really good stretch goal. The last 2 things you can do is come back to the notes in between, of course, our sharp and flat notes. Now, if you don't know what sharp notes or flat notes are, don't worry, I'm going to give you an easy explanation. These are our accidentals, and they're going to fall in the gaps where we skipped notes previously. So if we had E at 0, F at 1, and then we skip to G, there is going to be a note at fret number 2. Now, we've got 2 names for it. We can call it F sharp, where we start on an F note and raise it up, go 1 fret higher. That makes it F sharp, or we can call it G flat. We start at the G note and we lower it. Now this is called enharmonic spelling, where you have 2 names for the same thing. And I could give you a big, long, detailed explanation about that. I'll do another video regarding that at a later time. For now, you just have to know if I take a note and I go 1 fret higher, I'm going to be sharpening that note or raising it. F sharp at fret number 2. If I have G at fret 3, G sharp would be fret number 4. If I've got A at fret 5, A sharp would be fret number 6. Likewise, if I've got B at fret number 7 and I go 1 fret lower, that's going to be B flat at fret number 6, A flat's going to be fret number 4, G flat's going to be fret number 2. So for now, as a beginner or getting into this fretboard knowledge, all you need to do is understand that you can call that note F sharp or G flat. And we're essentially just playing the notes which would match the black keys on the piano. We'll understand why a little bit later, but for now you just need to know the spelling. The stretch goal which we're getting at here is as you're going along the fretboard, you can do the sharps instead of the naturals, or the flats instead of the naturals. So what I would generally do is make my group of notes A sharp, B as normal, C sharp, D sharp, E as normal, F sharp, G sharp, back to A. And I would go along the fretboard, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B as normal, C sharp, D sharp, and then E. Likewise, when I'm doing the flats, I'm going to lower E flat and lower B to B flat, and I'm going to keep F natural, and I'm going to keep the C natural as well. So I'd start going by F, then G flat, fret number 2, A flat, B flat, C is normal, D flat, E flat, and then back to F. Now, if you're just a beginner, if you're just getting started, wait a couple of weeks until you've memorized the entire fretboard before you start worrying about sharps and flats. But if you do this and incorporate it a little bit later and build upon a solid foundation of knowing where all the natural notes are, then you are going to have an absolute breeze of doing this exercise. So that's it for strategy number 1. And even if you just worked on that for the next 6 weeks, it's going to give you a solid foundation of how to memorize the fretboard and 3 really great variations of that exercise to help you learn it. So strategy number 1 was all about memorizing the fretboard horizontally across a single string. Strategy number 2 is going to be all about how to vertically memorize the fretboard. And instead of going across a single string, we're going to pick a fret and we're going to go vertically across multiple strings. And the simplest version of this is just memorizing the open strings. E, B, G, D, A, E. Or E, A, D, G, B, E. Now you might have some funny mnemonic devices like Easter Bunny gets drunk at Easter, or Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. That's a really great way to memorize the open strings. However, what we want to do is start picking out some other frets and applying a similar process. Now we're just going to do repetition, repetition, repetition. And maybe I didn't mention this a bit earlier in the video, but the key to memorizing the fretboard comes from doing these simple exercises over and over again for short periods. Think of it like your timetables when you're a kid. You don't practice timetables for an hour. No, you get really, really bored. What you do is you do 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and over a period of time, you memorize your times tables relatively easily. What we want to do is be consistent with our fretboard knowledge and these exercises that we do here. And once again, over a period of a couple of days to a couple of weeks, we are going to memorize where all the notes are just through short, sharp bursts of practice consistently over time. So getting back to strategy number 2, what we're going to do now is vertical memorization. So all we need to do is pick out a fret, for example, fret number 5, and we're going to go through that one string at a time, saying the notes out loud. Again, the key part is saying the notes out loud. If you say it out loud, you reinforce that connection with an auditory or a verbal command connection in your brain. So that's why I get you to do it, and that's why I get all my students to do it. Plus, if you're doing this example and exercise with a teacher, they can hear if you're saying the note wrong and can fix you up. So another important little tidbit there. But if you come to fret number 5, what we've got is A at fret 5 on string 6. Then I've got a D note. Then I've got a G note. Then I've got a C note. Then I've got an E note. Then I've got an A note. So I might want to do that 3 times ascending, then I can do it descending, going back the other way. I've got an A note, I've got an E note, I've got a C note, I've got a G note, I've got a D note, and I've got an A note here. So I would just continue to pick out frets. Maybe I'd look and favor the ones which have less sharps or less flats in the beginning, but I would gradually want to do this where I literally can pick out any fret and just say them. Another little tip is basically just stick to either sharps or flats. So if I go to fret number 9 and I start by calling that one C sharp, then what I'm going to do is continue using sharps. If I call that D flat in the beginning, I'm going to continue using flats. And of course, the natural notes are in there already. So I've got a C sharp at fret 9, followed by an F sharp, followed by a B, followed by an E, followed by a G sharp, followed by a C sharp. And I'd do that a couple more times ascending, and then I'd go descending. Now you can strategically just chip away at the ones that you're comfortable with and then add some new ones in over time, or you can pick out 4 at random and just do 4 of them up and down. Again, we don't want a 20-minute exercise or a 60-minute exercise here. We want short, sharp bursts of focused practice. One of my favorite things to do is actually get a 12-sided dice. You can get them from most game or hobby stores, or even just jump on Amazon, and then just roll the dice. If it comes up with 12, go to fret 12 and do it. If it comes up with 4, go to fret 4 and do it. And if you want to add a sharp or flat element, flip a coin. If it's heads, use the sharps. If it's tails, use the flats. So it's a cool little game you can play with yourself to keep things more fun and more exciting. But that's it for strategy number 2. Now, fretboard memorization strategy number 3 is one of my personal favorites and is an exercise you can use to rapidly learn the location of the notes all over the fretboard. Now, this one is a lot easier if you've already worked on strategies number 1 and strategy number 2. So even though this is probably one of the best exercises to do, don't skip straight to it. Introduce it a week or 2 after you've got at least the basic natural notes down. So what we're going to do for this strategy is basically just pick out a note and find one note across 6 strings, as opposed to finding all the notes across a single string. Now, basically what we need to do for this one here is if I pick out E, for example, I'm going to find the E note on string number 1, and then number 2, and then number 3, then number 4, then number 5, then number 6. I'm just going to go up and back again. I'm not trying to do this for 5 minutes and memorize all the E's. What I'm actually doing is training myself to find the notes quickly. So there's a really subtle difference here in the fact that we're not trying to memorize where the notes are, we are trying to train ourselves to find the notes quickly. It's a very different skill, but one that kind of pays off and trickles over into fretboard memorization. And for example, if you're playing and you're in front of 10,000 people, you're about to do your guitar solo, you go to play the first note and bang, the string breaks. What are you going to do? Change guitars? No, you're just going to go and find the same notes somewhere else on the fretboard. So this is a cool little backup plan, bit of insurance against the wrong thing happening at the wrong time there, but it's a great exercise to help you find the notes quickly, train yourself to do that, but the memorization is going to be a natural consequence of that over time. So here's how we do the exercise. For example, if I pick out the E note, I'm going to find E on the open string. Then I'm going to find E on string 2. Then I'm going to find E on string 3. Then you're going to find E on string number 4, then E on string number 5, and then E on string number 6. Now, generally, as a rule of thumb, I'm only going to go between the open string and fret number 12. And generally, if it is on the open string, I'll probably just do fret 12. You can double up and do both if you want, but I'm going to ascend through it. No, that was descending actually. I'm going to start with descending, and then I'm going to go back the other way. So I'm going to do E, and then 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 E, and I can even do the E up here. So that didn't take me all that long, but what I have done consistently is train myself to find the E notes quickly. So let's try that again with another fret. This time I'll do A starting at fret 5 on string number 1. So at first I play A, then I play another A, then A, then A, then A, then A, then I go back up again, A, 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 A. That's all I need to do, just need to find those A notes once, up and down, then I pick out another note, up and down, pick up another note, up and down. The purpose isn't to try and drill this and memorize it. The purpose of this exercise is to train yourself to find the notes quickly. And I would just do as many notes as I could in a 5-minute period, up and down, once, maybe twice at the most, and then change notes. Now, to help you think less and do the exercise more, what you can do is just write out the notes in a random order. For example, get a piece of paper and write A, then D, then F sharp, then B, then C sharp, then G flat, all these bunch of things. Just write out a line of 12 notes and then pick out the first one, find it across all 6 strings. Pick out the second one, find it across all 6 strings. Or if you've got a dice, once again, assign 1 note to each number, roll a dice, and then go and find it across all 6 strings there. So this is a fantastic exercise you can use to implement. And if you want a real challenge with this exercise, what you can do is grab a metronome, set it to 60 beats per minute, and try and play 1 note before the next upcoming click. That'll put a little bit of a time pressure on you and force you to think in time before the click. So that's a great way to challenge yourself and push your limits there. So guys, that brings us to the end of the video here. If you found this information helpful, please like and subscribe and share this around with a couple of guitar player friends that you have. And I hope that you can use this information to memorize the fretboard. Again, if you apply those 3 principles, basically the musical alphabet, the buddy note system, and the idea that the note repeats every 12 frets, then that's going to give you a solid foundation and all the rules that you need to memorize the fretboard. Then when you consistently take action and implement and apply those 3 exercises I've taught you, you can easily learn and master the fretboard in as little as 6 weeks. It just comes down to 5 to 10 minutes of daily practice. So guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope I've helped you out with your guitar playing, and I hope that I've helped you decode a bit of this mystery around the fretboard. And if you'd like more videos, make sure you check out my channel. Thank you so much.